Welcome to the Female Finance Collective, where we encourage women to have open and honest conversations about all things money. In today's episode, we're going to talk about perfectionism, the fear of failure, and how these things affect our money. Just a quick disclaimer before we get started that this podcast is for educational purposes only, and we really encourage you to listen in, but also do your own research when making financial decisions. So let's get started. Let's talk about perfectionism and fear of failure. I know those things affect me all the time, no matter what stage in my wealth building I'm in, from beginning to now to I'm sure they will keep coming back over and over. What we're really talking about here is some mindset, some money mindset things about how we feel that we need to be perfect. And so we end up self-sabotaging, making choices that aren't good for our money. So Marilee, do you want to get us started?
Yeah, for sure. So the first thing I think of when it comes to perfectionism and fear of failure is that money decisions can feel very, very scary. We make lots of them every day. We're making purchase decisions. We are paying bills. We're doing all this activity as it relates to our finances. And it can feel scary to make a decision, especially as the numbers get bigger. And it can feel difficult to kind of get over that worry that you might be making a mistake. And one of the things is it's pretty much impossible to get it perfect when it comes to your finances. Sometimes the fear becomes this big roadblock, and people freeze and don't want to even look at their finances or even get started with having a look at their cash flow or budgeting because they're so fearful of making a mistake. So that's kind of the mindset piece that tends to happen just when people think about money. Jen, what do you think of in terms of that perfectionism and fear of failure and how it affects your money?
I think very much what you just said at the end about getting started. It was a huge reason why I didn't start managing my money or paying attention to how to pay off debt or any of that, because I was sure I wasn't going to be able to do it. I was sure I wouldn't do it the right way, right? Like there's not really a right way, is there? And or not one right way. And so it just held me back from getting started. And I think that that's true for a lot of people. I think that they don't take the next step with their finances, whether that's like buying an investment property or just figuring out how much debt they have and getting started with a budget. Like no matter where you are, sometimes that fear of not being able to do it right or failing when you do get started holds us back from starting at all. And I think you kind of mentioned this, Marilee, but that's not doing us any favors, right? Like not getting started is just making it more stressful. It is just putting things off. We're not getting anywhere, right? By being frozen in that fear of failure or in that search for perfectionism. Nothing about finances is perfect. I don't care who you are or how long you've been doing it. We all make mistakes. There are things outside of our control that we will never be able to manage. We just have to roll with it. And I think that, we let all of those unknown factors hold us back. But really, if you can just get started, I think that's kind of the biggest ticket to getting over that fear of failure is just taking the first step and realizing that nobody's perfect and nobody has all the finances figured out and nobody has control of any of all. Well, we have control of any of it. Nobody has control of everything, right? All of it. And so you just have to take that first step. I think that fear of failure is what keeps people from doing anything, right? Kind of frozen without taking any action.
Yeah, absolutely. Like that procrastination that you were talking about, I don't think you named it exactly that way, but procrastinating on our financial decisions is happening because we are afraid that we're not going to do it right, that it's not going to be perfect, or because we're going to fail. Something's going to happen. I'm going to make a mistake, right? And what that leads to is this procrastination and not getting started, exactly as you said. And so one thing is after you get started is embracing or reframing to know that it's probably going to be messy, right? Some of us that are perfectionists really like to have everything, every duck in a row, right? It's like, this is on my spreadsheet and it's got to go this way. And you know what? With money, it's not always going to go that way. And so if we can embrace it to be a little bit messier, a little bit less perfect, recognizing that it can't be perfect. There is no perfect way. There is no one way. I think another thing is we think that we know that this person is doing it the right way, whatever that means, right? There is no right way. We don't even probably know how that person's really exactly doing it, right? Even if we're following people like us on the Female Finance Collective and we're sharing how we do different things, there's a lot of pieces in a money puzzle. There's everyday spending, there's saving, there's investing, right? There's so many pieces that all work together. So there is no perfect way. So how can we shift our mindsets to think, okay, it's not going to be perfect. That doesn't exist. I can't go for perfectionism. I am going to fail. So I'm going to have to fail forward. How can I embrace a little bit of that uncomfortableness, messiness, whatever you might want to call it? But I need to take action, like you said, Jen, and I need to move forward. And so I'm going to have to embrace a little bit of, maybe it's a little bit of uncomfortableness, um, of knowing that there's no one way. I just got to go. And I've got to embrace that. And I got to keep moving myself forward, because being frozen leads to years and years of procrastination. And that is not going to help your financial situation or you meet your goals at all.
You're so right with that, Sybil. On social media, I'll often see people ask for the best way to budget or to track your finances. And the thing is, no matter what you choose, there's going to be great things about it and not so easy things about it. And anytime you make a change, anytime you start a new habit or a new routine, it feels very uncomfortable. And your brain likes the status quo. It likes doing the same thing over and over again. So it is going to put up some roadblocks for you. And often those roadblocks look like, oh, I can't get this category just right in my spreadsheet or in the app. So I'm going to give up and move on to something else. My suggestion is when you get started, give it some time. So whatever method you choose to look at your budget or track your finances, give it a little bit of time, because our brains need to adjust to those new habits. So we've spoken a bit about how perfectionism and fear of failure affect money. So procrastination is a big one. The other one that I come across is when people avoid doing things like investing because they're worried that they're going to make a mistake, or they're worried that they're going to lose money. So they let those fear-based thoughts override taking any action. So that's definitely one roadblock that comes up. The other one is over analyzing. So whether that's your budget or a decision and not taking action. I tend to personally do this. I think of all the risks that are out there when I'm making a decision, and sometimes that gets overwhelming. So I just don't take action because of those fears. So it's just working through and understanding if you have a fear related to a financial decision. Is it legitimate? Is there something you can do to reduce the risk? Like, how likely is that fear to actually come true? And kind of work through some questions that you ask yourself around that. And that's where sometimes having an accountability buddy when it comes to your finances is great, because you can talk to someone else that may have already purchased investments or purchased a rental property and work through some of those thoughts that are coming up. Jen, what are the ways that you've seen that fear of failure or perfectionism can impact money decisions or money?
I think that it's very much what you said, and I think on some level we're a little bit repeating ourselves just in different examples, right? But it really is that simple. That when you are afraid of making a mistake, when you feel that you have to be perfect, you tend to hold yourself back. You tend to avoid getting started, and you avoid taking action, right? So whatever financial element that applies to in your life, that you can see that impacting you, right? You can see yourself being kind of stuck or frozen. We're using some of these same words, um, instead of taking action and moving forward. And I think that is the biggest challenge for people is to, we have different types of people, right? Some people are like, oh, I need to get my money in order. All right, let me just go for it. And they don't even know anything. And they're just like, let me just try and see what happens. And they're trying 500 things, but they're trying. And then we have other people who are like, I don't know how to do it, so I guess I can't do anything. I'm just going to sit here and not do anything. And I don't know that one strategy is better than the other, but in this instance, when we're talking about like that fear of failure and that perfectionism, you have to get over that. I know that's really not very touchy-feely, but you really do have to get over that and try something, even one small step. I think that that is how you kind of get the ball rolling. And once you do one thing, you're like, okay, that wasn't so scary. Let me try the next thing, and let me try the next thing. And that, I want to talk about like when we get stuck just focusing on one small detail of our finances, because I think this is true with a lot of things in life, right? Like you want to start eating healthier. So you get stuck on like one little element of that. Well, like, I don't know how much is the right whatever for me to do. So I guess I can't eat better because I don't know that one thing, right? And so we can get kind of hung up the same way in our finances on this one thing. Well, I don't know what the right amount of money to spend on this is, or I don't know what the right percentage is to save. So I guess I just won't do anything because I don't know. And that is the mistake, right? Just getting caught in those things. So taking a small action is the big key here, and one small action at a time so that you can start to set those wheels in motion. The other thing that I think we would all encourage you to do is to do some reflection on why you think you're stuck. And if you're really, even if you're like, okay, I'm going to take that one action today, and you just still can't get yourself to do it, there are things that I recommend. So I like to talk to myself. I know that's not for everybody. I will just have these full conversations with myself because sometimes I think better if it's out loud. Um, Sometimes I'll write it, like, what is my deal? Why do I feel this way? And I'll just make like a list. I also think really having these thoughtful, reflective conversations, you don't have to do them out loud when you're outside, but in your head, these kind of reflection walks where you just go for a walk, and while you're moving your body, you kind of think through, what is it that's holding me back? Why am I so stuck here? Why can't I get moving forward? And we might realize, oh, it has something to do with my family and those things I learned when I was a kid. Oh, it has something to do with something somebody said to me once. Oh, I watched this other person fail miserably with their finances, and I'm afraid of that. But once we can kind of really get to that realization for ourselves, that is what makes it easier also to realize, okay, I'm going to be okay. I have failed before and I will fail again. And it is okay to take a chance and to give this a try, even though I'm not going to be perfect. And I know that's easier said than done, but really the key here is just doing something.
Completely agree. So to kind of summarize what you just beautifully said, Jen, you want to try to embrace imperfection, right? Through journaling, through meditation walks, through just deep thinking about that there is no perfect out there. And then we want to set good enough goals, right? We need to move forward. We need to take those baby steps. And it's gonna be good enough, and get going, set those goals, set that budget, whatever you need to do. And then just really challenging those negative thoughts, right? Just We have to challenge them, whether it's through self-talk. I think everybody self-talks. I don't know if everyone would admit it, but I don't see how you couldn't, whether it's out loud or in your head. I think it's a thing that human beings do, and our brain doesn't know the difference between, self-talk and talking to somebody else. We're imprinting the same kind of things, so we need to challenge those negative thoughts that we have and that fear and that perfectionism that keeps showing up. So we're going to sign off now. We hope that you've enjoyed this episode of the Female Finance Collective podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to like and follow our podcast. You can find us on Instagram, on YouTube, your favorite podcast platform. We are there. And as always, we want to hear from you. We want to know what you're up to, what you're thinking about with money, what your challenges are, what your successes are. So let us know, and we look forward to chatting next week.